What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 5, No Bullshit with Alex Willis, the go-to source for leadership development in the construction industry. And this is the foundation, right? In our last segment, we began to talk about the 5 levels of leadership in the pyramid. And man, we talked about the very bottom being position, then permissional leader, then a production leader, then people developer. And at the very top, we ended that segment with this thing called respect. But what the hell is respect? If we're trying to get to the very top of the pinnacle, if it's all about trust and respect with others and creating trust and respect for a belonging environment, we have to clearly understand what the hell is respect. Now, as I do this segment live in different training segments across the country, when I ask that question, I'm gonna be honest, that stumps a lot of people. I had one guy say, well, Alex, it means to respect others. It means to respect. So think about this. What is respect? What is it? Can you define it? Right? And so I try to broaden it. And so here's what I share with people. I say, listen, if we're being honest, respect for all of us, it looks and means different things. And I just try to narrow it and simplify it like this. I try to say, hey, listen, well, can we all agree that there are multiple levels of respect, right? And the very top level being admiration. Right? Well, I respect this person so much that I admire them and I want to be like them, right? At the very top. Now, there are all of these different levels in between admiration, and at the very bottom, I like to say just human decency. Respecting a person simply because they are a human being at the very bottom, right? So, very top, admiration, very bottom, human decency, and all of these levels in between. Now, understand this, my friends. People fall between there at different levels, depending on who you are and where they are and what they've done in your life, right? So when we talk about this and I say, hey, define it, I try to clarify it that way. Oftentimes what people do is they say, hey, listen, well, to respect, Alex, means to treat others the way you want to be treated. And I call bullshit on that. Because if we're being honest, my friends, does everyone want to be treated the way you want to be treated? Hell no, they don't, right? Treat people the way they want to be treated. True story, my wife and I. Look, when I'm on the phone with my wife, I don't want all the damn details. I'm like, hey, what happened? What's the story? Give it to me high level, right? She's like, hey, and then the person had a red dress, and then they turned on their blinker, and then, man, it was a brown car, and I'm like, hey, what happened? Right? For me, give it to me, boom, right? Now, I understand if I'm talking to her, Sabrina, I need to give her the details. What happened? I need to go through all of that. But hey, to respect Alex is to say, shorten it. Give it to me short and sweet, right? So understand, everyone doesn't want to be treated like you, right? Oftentimes, when we try to define respect, people oftentimes talk about how to do it. And so sometimes I hear in our industry, the construction industry, people say, give a firm handshake, Alex, and look a person in the eyes. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. The further east you go in the world, that could be very disrespectful. Shaking a leader's hand and looking them in the eyes, right? Oftentimes, the further east you go, it's a bow, and it's actually not looking at a person in the eyes, which means showing a level of respect, right? So we have to understand different cultures mean different things. But for today's segment, we're just going to say, hey, listen, we're talking about a scale. At the very top of that scale, admiration. At the very bottom of that scale, we have human decency. And so I ask people this question right here quite frequently. If a person's ideas are oppressive, should we still respect that person? And man, we're all over the board in our classes when we talk about that. Some people are like, yeah, well, depends on how bad their idea is, depending on what their idea is. And then I take it even further. And I ask this question. Is there anything that anyone could ever do that they fall below the lowest level of my scale of human decency? Can someone do anything to fall below that where we disrespect them in such a way that we don't treat them like human beings? And this is where my class struggles, my friends. And I'm gonna be honest, this is probably where you're gonna agree to disagree with me, and that's okay. That's the beauty of our country, is that we can agree to disagree and still walk away and be friends, right? So I tend to side that, truth be told, there should never be any action that a person can do that we tend to treat them below the scale of human decency. Now, people throw all kind of things out at me. Well, Alex, what about a mass murderer? Or what about a child molester, someone who takes advantage of children? They deserve to be way down there and below. And I challenge them, as tough as that is. Very, very difficult, very, very challenging. Here's how I challenge them, my friends, and here's what I want you to think about. All of us listening right now, we walk around the world with what I like to call a force field of values around us. So Alex has his force field of values around him. And understand, anytime someone steps outside of that force field of values, that's when Alex decides if I'm going to show them respect or not, or show where they fall on my level or my scale of respect, right? But here's what I'd like to show people. All of us have different force fields and different boundaries. And most of those things that we hold dear and tight to are not the same, for one. Secondly, I love to show people that most times the values and the things that we hold tight to and we hold dear to, truth be told, my friends, we don't hold them as tightly as we say we do. What do I mean by that? Well, by that I mean, truth be told, with most of us, the standard is not the standard for everyone. We tend to bend and break the rules. What do you mean, Alex? Well, in that same scenario, when people say, well, Alex, what about a mass murderer or what about a child molester? They deserve to be below that scale. And then I turn it back on them and I say, okay, I understand. Hey, I commend you on your values and on your beliefs. I say to them, I agree with you. They should definitely be sentenced with the court of law. We have a system to handle that. And so whatever that sentence is, if it's the maximum sentence, we should do that. But I challenge people to understand we can do that and still do it with human decency. I can even take someone, if they are sentenced to the death sentence, we can walk them even to that sentence in a humane way as we carry out that court case, right? So I want to challenge you to think about that. Now, here's where I push the envelope a little bit. And here's where people in my class tense up a little bit and pause. I ask them one question. I say, listen, would your opinion change if the person who did the molesting was your child? If the person who actually did the molesting was your child, would they fall below human decency? Oh man, you should see my classes tense up with that. People pause and say, oh. Most times in my class, people say yes. They will say, now, sentence my child. If it's life in prison for their crime or for whatever they did, do that, but please, please, please still treat them with human decency. And I show people that, truth be told, our values are very loose at times. We hold that standard to other people, but that standard across the board tends to be very flexible when it comes to our family, as well as when it comes to that hierarchy, that ladder we talked about in segment 2, where we talk about money, power, and fame, people with a high network, those type things, we tend to bend the rules for them. Why? Because the standard isn't the standard. Now, here's what we have to understand, my friends. If we're going to do a hell of a job of creating a belonging environment where everyone feels as though they belong, we have to go over and beyond to make sure the standard is the standard. Regardless of who you are, regardless of what you look like, regardless of your connection to me, regardless of your level of productivity, the standard is the standard. And for a long time in the construction industry, we haven't done a hell of a job doing that. If someone's good, we let them off. I want you to think about it. The construction industry reminds me quite frequently of the sports industry. Why? Because if you can run fast enough, if you can jump high enough, if you can throw a ball far enough, you can damn near get away with anything, all right? But if you can't do that, we throw the book at you. It's the same thing in the construction industry. So if we're going to do a hell of a job, we have to really, really, really begin to wrestle with this concept of respect and understanding that it may be challenging, it may be difficult, but if we can do a hell of a job of making the standard regardless of who it is, we can do a hell of a job creating high-performing teams that work together, that's able to see each other for who they are, that's able to challenge assumptions, ask questions, stand up for each other, and ultimately create an environment that we begin to run through brick walls for each other, right? So think about that, my friends. How are you at holding the standard for everyone, making it the same regardless of who they are? We're going to wrap this up in our next segment. We're going to really begin to go and frame it out and show you how to do it what emotions you have to overcome in order to really create these belonging environments, create a respectful environment, and challenge yourself in these areas. So I look forward to seeing you in the frame out. So I want to thank you for tuning in to No Bullshit with Alex Willis, the go-to source for leadership development in the construction industry. Now, be sure to subscribe to YouTube and your favorite podcasting platform so that you can be notified when we release new episodes, right? Now, for those, I want to challenge you to leave a comment. We want to hear what you think about the show. I also want to challenge you to leave some comments of some leadership challenges you may be seeing and facing at work. Because remember, we're here for you. We want to help you be the best both at work and at home, my friends. So until next time, I'll see you later, my friends.